And Dan Kaminsky with the Society of Professional Journalists International Community. May 3 is World Press Freedom Day, and that means it is also time for the annual Press Freedom Index from Reporters Without Borders. Given all the activities related to the release of the report, we are really fortunate to have once again with us Clayton Weimers, Executive Director for RSF in North America, to join us and talk about the index. Let's just get straight to it. The 2026 index confirms the decline in press freedom as previously reported this year by Freedom House and the Inter American Press Association. In fact, the introduction, Clayton, points out for the first time in the history of Reporters Without Borders World Press Freedom Index, over half of the world's countries now fall into the difficult or very serious categories for press freedom. What's going on here? How does RSF describe difficult and very serious? And what's gone wrong in the world that's led to this situation?
Quite a few things, actually. You don't arrive at a point like this because one particular event went the wrong way or one election swung in a certain direction. These are structural deficiencies that are global trends as well as national trends. And it's a bad trend line. It's all going in the wrong direction for press freedom for the most part globally. And so, yeah, like you said, more than half the world's countries are now either red or dark orange on our map. Those are the most serious places. Now, some of these are countries where journalism simply cannot be practiced safely, where press freedom doesn't exist. That's China, North Korea, Eritrea, Russia. But there are more and more countries that seem to be backsliding on press freedom. These are countries you might consider developing democracies or even quasi-authoritarian countries. And things are looking a little shaky there as well. But also, quite startlingly, democracies are seeing a backslide, and chief among them, the United States, has now hit an all-time low of 64th on the index.
I um, I was going to ask you about the U.S. position. Uh, it dropped 7 points from last year's. What do you attribute to that drop?
I mean, I think it's not going to surprise anyone who's been paying attention for the past year and 4 months or so. But since he came back to office, President Trump has waged all out war on the press. And it's really been an evolution from Trump 1.0, where, yes, he was attacking the media, he was calling journalists the enemies of the people, fake news. That's all very baked in at this point. It's sad to say that we just kind of expect that from the current president of the United States. What's really changed in Trump 2.0 is concrete actions to deteriorate press freedom that we're going to have to live with the consequences of for years to come. And I'm talking about things like defunding public media, assaults on the U.S. Agency for Global Media's independence, banning the AP from the White House for using Gulf of America, not using Gulf of America, lawsuits against the media, the FCC being weaponized against media outlets, the DOJ being weaponized against individual journalists. The list goes on and on. We could spend all day just listing different things that the president or his administration have done to weaken press freedom or try to control the press. But the point is, it's a systematic campaign. It's coordinated. It has an end goal. It's a playbook we've seen in other countries, and we have to stop it.
Speaking of other countries, I'm assuming that the time this survey was taken, Hungary was still under Viktor Orban's government, and RSF had described Orban as a press freedom predator. Have you had a chance to look at the proposals and statements made by Prime Minister-elect Peter Magyar? And if so, what are your expectations there?
I would say cautiously optimistic. Again, one election doesn't qualify as a sea change when it comes to press freedom. We need to see genuine changes. The initial signals from Mr. Magyar have been positive. He's indicated a healthy respect for the independence of the media. But, you can't forget that a big part of the problem in Hungary has been the media capture, owners taking over outlets and they have close affiliations with Viktor Orban and his political party. And so that's why I caution against thinking that, this can be solved overnight with one quick fix. It can't. But it is nonetheless quite positive that the Hungarian people decided enough. This is not the country we want. This is not the direction that we want to go in. And I won't delude myself into thinking that it was all about press freedom. There were a lot of different complicated factors going on there, and I'm certainly no expert on Hungarian politics. But you can't deny that a big part of Orbanism is controlling the media narrative. And if we can move in the other direction, that will only be a positive for the future of Hungarian press freedom.
So, besides the decline in press freedom friendly locations around the world, are there other points that surprised you or occurred that you took special notice of?
I think one of the big standout data points for us this year is that the legal indicator dropped significantly more than any of the other the other four indicators. So as a reminder, we measure five different indicators that go into our press freedom scores. There's the legal indicator. There's also security, political culture, sociocultural context, and the legal infrastructure. And with I think I said legal twice there. In any case, the legal indicator is the one that has taken the biggest hit. And what we're seeing is twofold. On the one hand, the laws intended to protect press freedom and access to information are deteriorating or being weakened in a lot of countries around the world. And on the other hand, we're seeing an increase in weaponization of the law, especially national security laws against journalism. These are laws that on the books are intended to keep us safe, in practice are being used to stifle journalism.
Okay. Uh, is there another point, any other points you'd like to raise? Because I know you're very, very busy, with the rollout of this survey. So we really appreciate the time you've taken to be with us. But is there something else you'd like to
I always
just
have time
add?
for SPJ. I will say, I spent a lot of time talking about the Trump problem, but it's not just the Trump problem. And so we are now down to 64th in the US, but that's down from 57th, which is also not great for a country that prides itself on the First Amendment, which enshrines press freedom. In fact, journalism is the only profession mentioned in the Bill of Rights. And yet we've allowed press freedom to steadily decline over the course of the past decade. That spans multiple presidential administrations and Congress changing hands several times. That tells me that we don't have a Trump problem. We have a structural deficiency. And Trump is part of it, but he's mostly just pouring gasoline on a fire that's already burning. We're not going to solve this problem overnight. One election won't solve anything. We need to have a hard conversation with ourselves as Americans. What does it mean to value press freedom? And if we do value press freedom, how can we show it?
Okay. Well, I think that was an excellent point to wrap up on. Clayton Weimers, Executive Director of Reporters Without Borders in North America. Thank you very much for taking time from your very busy schedule at this time to talk about the new World Press Freedom Index from Reporters Without Borders.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Dan.
Okay. Great. Thank you very
Great.
much. Really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Hey,
It
you're
looks like
smart.
you're in a sauna.
I feel like I'm in a sauna. I'm in a WeWork phone booth. I'm in New York today, so I'm just kind of
Oh,
bouncing around
okay.
different WeWorks in between studio interviews. Yeah, you're smart to book me in the morning because in a couple hours my voice is gonna be gone.
Well, he's your assistant who booked the time. I just said whenever he's available, we'll take him. So
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dan. I really appreciate you having
thanks
me on.
a lot. Take care.